Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer. Today I am sharing the new releases I read in 2020 and the new releases I'm looking forward to reading in 2021. If you're new here, welcome, and if not, welcome back. I love having you here on my bookish channel. I love all things reading, writing, and books. I love to share about the books that I'm reading and my favorite books, my bookish bullet journal, my writing and what I'm learning as I'm writing, and where I'm at in the process of that. So if those sound interesting to you, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. So I did want to just tell you what I count as a new release. I don't only count this year's books, I've been counting books that came out in the previous year as well, because sometimes I just want to keep up on the recent books, but there's so many books that I want to read, and so that's kind of what I count as new releases. So the releases that I read this year, the first one I read was One of Us is Next by Karen McManus. This was the sequel to One of Us is Lying, which I also read this last year in 2020, and I really enjoyed the duology. It is not my favorite thriller duology, but it's pretty close. It was a really good one. The characters had quite a bit of depth, and the twists and stuff were good, and I really enjoyed it. Although I have to say I did enjoy One of Us is Lying a lot more than One of Us is Next. And then I read Hope in the Mail by Gwendolyn Van Draanen. She's the author of about 30 books, but her most famous is Flipped because it was made into a movie. I have really enjoyed all of the books that I read by her. I loved Flipped when I was younger and have read more of her books more recently. And this is like a nonfiction memoir type book. It's reflections on writing and life, and that is the perfect subtitle for her book. And I really loved this book. I would recommend it to anyone who is a writer or who enjoys creating anything, any creative processes. A really good book in that regard. And Gwendolyn Van Draanen is very funny. I thought that her anecdotes and her writing tone were really fun to read, and I just came away really uplifted from this book. I also read The Stars We Still by Alexa Dunn, and I found Alexa Dunn on her YouTube channel, and I really enjoyed The Stars We Still. It was a dystopian retelling of Persuasion, and it was a really fun read. I would highly recommend it, and I would highly recommend her channel. I have loved her YouTube channel. It's been so useful to me as a writer. I also read The Match by Sarah Adams. I found Sarah Adams on Instagram. I follow her bookish Instagram account, and her account is really fun. I love her books. She writes romance, so she's written some Regency romances, and then this is her first adult rom-com, and it came out this year, and it was amazing. It was really fun. She actually also wrote The Enemy, and it takes place kind of in the same world as The Match, though it follows different characters, and it came out this year as well, and I actually liked The Enemy even more than The Match, but I loved them both so much, and I would highly recommend them if you enjoy romance. It's also a clean romance. It has some steam to it, like attraction and stuff in it, and everything, but it's very clean, which I really appreciate that in a book. So yes, hilarious and fun and light and perfect for January when you're stuck inside and kind of tired of winter. I also read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is the prequel to The Hunger Games, of course, and it came out this year. And I did enjoy it. I think I liked The Hunger Games more, but I did enjoy this for different reasons. It did feel a little bit different, but it was fun to see like the crossover. Yeah, it was definitely a good read if you enjoy The Hunger Games. I also read The Rider's Reign by Jessica Day George. This was the final book in a trilogy about a girl who, in a fantasy world where the horses are kind of like a magical creature, and it was a fun read. I'm not a huge horse person, so that didn't really speak to me, but I think that my daughters will like it, so the whole trilogy, and so I'm going to keep it around. Then I read Splinters of Scarlet by Emily Bain Murphy. This is another author that I found on Instagram, and I loved this book. It's a historical fantasy with elements of mystery in it, and I loved it from beginning to end, and I cannot wait to read more by this author. And I read A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer, and this was the sequel to Curse So Dark and Lonely, and I always have to be careful not to mix up the words in the titles. and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great, solid sequel to a great book that I really enjoyed the first one of, and I know that the next one's coming out next year, and I'm excited to finish off the trilogy. I also read Burn by Patrick Ness. This was my third Patrick Ness book. It was my least favorite of the three, but it was still enjoyable. It is a book about dragons, and I don't know really what else to say about it. It's mostly just about dragons, and you'll see when you read it. It's kind of a different book. It definitely has Patrick Ness's like unique writing style, so if you enjoy that, then this would be a fun one to pick up, especially if you like dragons. It did have some more explicit sexual stuff, nothing like super explicit, but just like kind of foreplay type stuff, and that did make me a little bit uncomfortable and was one of the reasons I didn't like it as much. The other reason was that it just felt, I had a hard time connecting with the characters. There were a lot of POVs, and some of them I just found a little bit boring. But I understand why he did those POVs, and I think it's still a well done book, and I know a lot of people still really enjoy it. I also read The Princess and the Fangirl, which came out in 2019, and this was the sequel to Geekerella, and I really enjoyed it. I read it at the beginning of 2020, so it definitely felt more like a new release when I read it because it had come out more recently. But it just follows two girls at a con, like at a Comic-Con type convention, and it's a Prince and the Pauper retelling, and I thought it was really cute, really well done. And then I read Dawn Shard and Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, and I read these in November when they came out. Dawn Shard came out I think 10 days before Rhythm of War, maybe 1 week, I don't remember exactly. Dawn Shard is like a little, it's supposed to be a novella, but it's like 200 pages, so it's technically a novel. It's just a much shorter novel than Stormlight books. And it follows, if you read the series, it follows Risen and Lopin. You don't technically have to read Dawn Shard between Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, but it does take place then, and so I wanted to read it in between before I read Rhythm of War. So I read that, and then I read Rhythm of War, and I absolutely loved it. Oathbringer is still my favorite in the series because I love Dalinar, and I love redemption arcs, and Oathbringer was so amazing to me, but Rhythm of War was really good too, and it had a lot of stuff about the Cosmere in it, so that was really fun, and it also had some really good character arcs in it as well. So yeah, definitely a great one if you're not reading the Stormlight Archive. I know it's daunting, but it is so worth the read. So then quickly, I just wanted to tell you there were 3 books on my list in my bullet journal of new releases that I didn't get to this year that I had kind of hoped to. The first one was Moment of Truth by Casey West. I do enjoy Casey West, and so I just thought it would be fun to read that one, but I just didn't get to it ever. And then Vanderbeeker's Lost and Found came out in September. I am not caught up on the series, so I would have had to read quite a few books in order to read that, so I just didn't read it. I have read the first one and enjoyed it, but I haven't read the rest, and I'm not sure when I'll get to them. And then the other one that I didn't read was The Glamourist, and it came out in 2020, and it is the sequel to The Vine Witch, which I read earlier this year, and I enjoyed it. So then of course I was like, oh well, there's a new one out, and then there's going to be another one out, so I was like, I should read it, but then I'm going to read it next year. So moving on to the new releases that I'm wanting to read in 2021. I'll start with the ones that actually came out in 2020 that I am hoping to get to in 2021. And the first one is The Glamourist by Luann G. Smith. Like I said, the sequel to The Vine Witch, which I really enjoyed. It was like witches at a vineyard. And then there's Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Postone. And it came out in August, and it's the third one in the Once Upon a Geek. So the Geekerella and the Princess and, no, the Fangirl and whatever that one was that I read this year. This is like the third one in that same world, but I'm assuming it follows different characters, and it's obviously a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so I'm super excited. I haven't actually read that many Beauty and the Beast retellings, even though they're super popular. So then I want to read King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender, and this came out in February of this year, and I heard about this from Kelly at Kelly Cozy Reader, and I'll link her channel down below. She really enjoyed this book. She said that it was like the one that she wanted everyone to read, and it looks really good, and I definitely want to check it out. And then Christopher Paolini, who wrote RAGON, which I read when I was younger, absolutely loved it. Tried to read again as an adult, had a really hard time with it. But he's written a new book called To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, and I want to try it just to see what it is like. Honestly, the title makes it sound like something I might not like, just given how the RAGON series kind of went at the end there, but we'll see. Maybe I'll actually really like it. And that one was released in October of last year. And then the last one I want to read is Hollow Pox by Jessica Townsend. So this is the third one in the Nevermore series. I have read the first one of that, but I haven't actually read the second one. But this one came out in September of this last year, and so I would really like to read the second and third and get kind of caught up. I know there's going to be 7 in the series. Moving on to 2021 releases, I have 4 main releases that I'm looking for. I haven't heard anything about releases from Brandon Sanderson, so I'm not sure yet if there's going to be anything, but if he releases anything, then I will definitely buy it and read it. The main ones that I'm looking out for are Sun Kissed by Casey West. Like I said, I enjoy her books. They're very clean, cute romances, and so maybe I can get to both the one from last year and this year. We'll see. And I'm not sure when that's coming out, I just know it's coming out in 2021. And then the final book of the Vine Witch series that I was talking about before, The Conjurer by Luann G. Smith, is coming out in January. So I probably won't read it in January because I still have to read the second book, but I do want to read it in 2021. And then the final book of the Curse So Dark and Lonely series by Bridget Kemmerer is coming out, and it is called A Vow So Bold and Deadly. And it's coming out in January as well. And I might actually read that one in January because I just read the other one pretty recently, the second one pretty recently, so it's fresh on my mind. And I don't have any books to read that I have to read before it comes out to catch up. So, and then the final one that I'm excited for is called The Enchanted Crown by Bethany Atazadeh. She's an author tuber that I found this last year, and I have really loved her channel. I've read the first book in this series. It's called the Stolen Kingdom series, but I do have to read 2 more before I can read this one because it's the 4th in the series and I've only read the first. I did try to get the second from the library, but I somehow accidentally got the 3rd, so then I just returned it, and I'm kind of waiting to read the second one until I have time. So I do want to read all 3 of these. This one comes out in March, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to read it right when it comes out or not, but I am excited to read it because she does read these. This is like a retelling of different fairy tales, and I love retellings. So those are the main releases that I am looking forward to. If you have any that you know of or that you're excited for, let me know, and then I can add them to my list. I have a big long empty list on my bullet journal, so I can just write them down as I come across them. Or let me know what your favorite new release was that you read last year. I'd love to hear about it, chat with books with you in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. And thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.